Welcome to Confessions by Banana Ketchup. Run. Prior to 2016, I lived in Palmdale, California. My sister Honey and my youngest daughter lived with my mother in a rented townhouse apartment in Oxnard, 2 hours away. Every week or two, I made a long drive to take them shopping and clean their house because they were both disabled. My mother was my heart and my sweet sister helped raise me, so anything they needed, I was there for them. On the first floor, the kitchen was in the back with a door that opened to the backyard, then a big open space, then the living room and the front door. On the right, the bathroom and my mother's bedroom. The stairs were on the left with the half-wall railing going up to the first landing. My mom was sitting in her lift recliner on the right, facing the base of the stairs. One night, we were all sitting in the living room watching a show with the lights on, and my daughter was upstairs in her room. We were laughing at something we saw on TV when I saw something on the stairs. It darted down the steps real fast, peeking up at me, then ducked down behind the railing, followed by a cold chill that entered the living room. My mother commented that it was cold and pulled her robe together. At first, I thought it was my daughter playing tricks on me, but when she didn't pop up, I felt concerned. I said, "Mama, did you see something?" Because she had full sight on anything there. She said, "No, dear, I thought I did, but there's nothing there." That's when it hit me, and instinctively I knew what it was and where it came from. I ran up the stairs and burst into my daughter's room. "What did you do?" She looked at me with her eyes wide. She knew exactly what I was referring to and started apologizing. I told her to tell me what she did to bring it into this house. She proceeded to tell me that when her girlfriends were there, they thought it would be fun to summon a spirit. Then they tried to reach the father of one of her friends who passed away 2 years prior, but she said something else came through and it scared them, so they stopped and her friends ran home without even saying goodbye. Well, I was furious. How dare you play with something you don't understand? I told her that I knew she was just trying to help a friend, but for heaven's sake, I warned her years ago never to mess around with things she didn't understand and had no control over. I was thinking that not only do I constantly worry about my family's health, now I have to worry about this? I asked if she at least closed the door and she just looked at me. She did not. She said they made an Ouija board out of paper and when they were done, she ripped it up and threw it away. That door had to be closed. We gathered the pieces and she called her friends. 2 of them were too scared to come back, so we had to perform the closing without them. But in the back of my head, I knew that it didn't work and it was still there hiding. At that point, there was nothing I could have done viewing the circumstances at the time. Fast forward to 2016. I had an opportunity waiting for me in Washington State, so I begged and pleaded for my mother and sister to go with me. But my sister Honey was fanatically scared of change, and although my mother desperately wanted to go with me, she couldn't leave my sister's side. I wish now I was more persistent. So I moved, reluctantly leaving them with my daughter and her now husband to take over their care. Within those 2 years, my eldest sister Honey's health severely declined, and my mother shared with me 8 months after I moved that she was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. I flew and drove back and forth to be with them, and every time I showed them pretty pictures of my new life and our beautiful green surroundings, so much better than where they were, asking them to return with me, and every time Honey would say that she was too apprehensive to leave and said no. 2018, they both passed away. My mother from cancer and my sister from an existing illness, taking a big part of my heart and my soul with them. My daughter and her husband moved out, leaving all of my mother and sister's things there. Somebody had to put their stuff in storage, and of course, it had to be me. Even though I was the youngest of 6, I felt it was my duty. I drove there with my 2 grandchildren, 8 and 4, because at the time, there was no one available to watch them for that long period. When we arrived, the place was in shambles. Dirty dishes and moldy food lined the counters and was piled up in the sink, and it looked like soot all over the floor. Mom and Honey's personal belongings were strewn around the house, and in my mother's room, a barricade of trash piled up to her door. In the middle of the floor, in the open space, was a full-length mirror I had never seen before, hanging off a wooden ladder. I just stood there and cried. I set up a clean spot in the living room for my grandson to play on his tablet, and my granddaughter wanted to help. As I was bagging things up in the kitchen, I noticed her just standing there, staring into the mirror. I didn't think anything of it, but she kept standing there. Then I heard her say to me while not looking away, "Nana, can you get rid of this mirror?" I thought she wanted me to move it, but she was adamant that it be taken out of the house. I asked her why she looked so scared, and she told me that while she was looking in the mirror, she was standing alone. She couldn't see anything in the reflection around or behind her, just darkness all around her, and something was coming. I looked at the mirror, not at myself, and it did look very dark. Say no more, not only did I take it outside, I smashed it into little pieces and threw it in the trash can. We decided to sleep in the living room, and it took days to even come close to being done. This was the last night, and we were alone. I just mopped downstairs, so the last night I locked the doors and all the windows in the whole house, and we slept upstairs in the bedroom across from my daughter's old room. We hunkered down on some mattresses on the floor. I always left the light on in the hall. I'm reading a book online. My granddaughter had fallen asleep next to me, and my grandson was on his tablet at the end of the bed. I was getting sleepy, and my grandson started to yawn. He looked up from his tablet, and his eyes got big. Then he ran to the door shouting "Spooky" and slammed it. Running back, he quickly got under the covers and got as close to me as he could, make me feel very uneasy. I could see movement in the hall, dimming the light around and under the door, making swirling strange shapes, as if someone were pacing, followed by surges of blackness and wisps of cool air coming from the space under the door. That night was long, and I felt on guard until I finally fell asleep as well, but woke up hours later and had to go to the bathroom, but I was too scared. I was waiting until daybreak, but I couldn't wait any longer. I slowly opened the door, fearing for what was waiting for me on the other side. There was nothing, but I knew there was. I could feel it. I tried to be as fast as I could be, and I left the bathroom door open so I could hear the kids. Then I ran back, hearing a swoosh behind me. I slammed the door and laid holding the kids until morning. I received a call from my sister later that morning. She couldn't understand how we had been able to stay in that house. When I asked her why, she told me that when she was there grabbing some boxes of pictures, she heard noises coming from my daughter's room upstairs. She said it was loud and she felt an evil presence, and everything inside her told her to leave. So she did. She also told me that my son-in-law, from which I had no knowledge of at the time, was practicing black magic and summoning dark energy in that room. Not cool. Late that afternoon, everything was done. The kids were in the car and the car was packed. I just wanted to look in my mother's bedroom one last time, where she used to sleep. These walls held so many memories. I felt like if I looked hard enough, I would see her lying where the bed had been, and in my mind telling me not to cry. As I stood in the doorway, a chill went up to my spine. The hairs on the back of my neck and my arms started to rise, and I could feel something closing in on me. In my ear, I felt a warm breath and heard one loud word: "Run!" I ran out of the house so fast, not even locking the door. As we were driving off, my granddaughter asked me who that was standing in the window upstairs. I want to thank my son Cody. Without him, I wouldn't have had the courage to write my stories, much less put them on Reddit for you all to read. He's also my hero editor. Thank you, Crazyturtlemama, the author. He touched me on the forehead. So, when I was about 10 years old, my neighbor died very suddenly. He wasn't old, maybe in his 40s, married, no kids, and to this date, I don't quite know his cause of death. A routine operation gone wrong is what I was told as a kid. Anyway, I really liked this neighbor. He was nice to my siblings and me. His wife baked cookies for us, and I only have fond memories of him, as he was one of those adults who took children seriously. Anyway, this is what happened. When my mom came back that evening from work, she told us about the neighbor and that he died a few hours ago in a local hospital. Of course, I was very upset, though I didn't cry. My sister and I shared a bedroom back then, and so we talked about our neighbor that night. How shocked we were and how sorry we felt for his wife, who unfortunately turned into a very bitter and creepy woman after his death. After a while, we said goodnight and tried to go to sleep. I say tried because I couldn't sleep at all, was still upset, and also had a very strange feeling of being watched. That feeling of something being in the room didn't go away. I didn't feel scared or anything, but it was odd, especially as I didn't believe in ghosts or anything paranormal as a child. Still, I tried my best to go to sleep and close my eyes and was suddenly overwhelmed by this weird emotion. I don't really know how to describe it, other than that it made me feel very peaceful and lifted that sadness. It was then I felt compelled to say goodbye to my neighbor, saying his name out loud, not caring whether my sister could hear me or not. She didn't, as she was fast asleep by then. As I spoke his name, lying flat on my back on my bed, I felt someone touch my forehead. I could distinctly feel a finger right between my eyebrows. My eyes were open and I saw nothing in the darkness, but I could feel this finger and had the feeling it was an index finger. That sensation lasted for maybe a second or two, and I just knew it was my neighbor saying goodbye. I told my sister afterwards, and she didn't believe me, of course, but I know what I felt. Not just that touch, but also that feeling of peace. And yeah, I'm sure it was our kind neighbor saying goodbye one last time. Thank you, Becca8520, the author. Thank you for watching, everyone. If you already haven't, subscribe to this channel so you don't miss any new episodes. See you again soon, and until then, please, be safe.